And once again, firstly, thank you everybody for joining the webinar, for being so generous with your time to find out 5 ways to use marketing automation to increase efficiencies and investor engagement. And obviously you can read the screen and it's 5 things, because if I told you the one thing you needed to do, people probably wouldn't join. Maybe you would. So really the thing that I wanted to talk about is the things that we've been lied about in marketing. We've been lied about these buzzwords, whether it's big data, AI, CRM, blockchain, and marketing automation. And just preparing for this webinar, I kind of said, okay, speaking to CRM experts and people who actually implement CRM, how many truly believe these projects come to any fruition? And how many big data projects come to fruition? How many AI projects come to fruition? And I know AI because my son works in AI. I've got a whole group of our Pro Funcom. We actually come from an AI background, the guys who build the platform, and looked at the new wave of blockchain and that kind of technology that we all talk about, but we hardly really understand. And what we've been promised in marketing is ultimately an 88% failure rate. And that's why, big data projects actually don't deliver anything. We know CRM fails because in any enterprise, in any organization, after every period of time, there's always a change in the CRM product. And it's literally, you could actually almost every 7 years, I think is the average of a CRM being changed, and everything that kind of goes with that. And again, it's one of those things, is buying a CRM, buying an marketing automation platform, buying big data seems a really logical thing to do. And no one's going to get sacked from buying big brands. But the problem is, it's actually deeper than that. The real problem is whether it's, whatever tech you're using, and we'll do a deep dive into marketing automation, is that it pretty much ends up, for marketing teams, it ends up like this. There are metrics that don't tell anybody anything. There are, charts and graphs that, will look lovely in a pack, but don't tell the sales team what they need to be doing to raise assets. It doesn't tell them, it doesn't tell the investment management, the IR team, who are the people that are investors that could be redeeming. It doesn't give you any of that information. It gives you things that really don't hit the real reason why funds exist, which is, investments and performance. And if there was one thing to do, if you are, if you just want to say, right, what's the summary of this whole, 22 minutes I'm going to take you through, is start with the end in mind. Don't end up doing what most people do. They'll buy a CRM, say it's Salesforce. They'll buy a marketing automation platform, Marketo, Pardot. They'll buy Seismic, which is a reporting tool, and they'll buy all these products and they'll try and connect them together, because nobody's actually sat down and said, as a fund, what do we need? Do we need to have all these systems individually bought because they're brilliant, shiny, and lovely toys? Or do we actually need to have a true business driver that will actually, underpin and join all the dots between these systems? Now, in the fund world we live in, it's really 2 things. Well, actually, it's 3 things. The first thing is, who are the people, our investors out there that are potentially looking to redeem? Who are our investors that could potentially buy another product from us? Who are the people that are actively engaged with us? And the marketing team being able to take that information and deliver that to the sales team is the ultimate goal of any real marketing person in fund marketing worth their salt. Now, why this tends to fail? Because marketeers aren't rewarded by AUM coming through the door. And that is one of the real behavioral changes that has to happen, is where the marketing teams and sales teams are aligned around, raising AUM and preserving AUM. So in many ways, that really is the summary of the next 21 minutes. And what we're going to do now is we're going to kind of look at how marketing automation allows you to do that. So, the question is, why bother? Why bother with marketing automation? Why don't I just send out emails? Why don't I put out tweets? Why don't I put stuff on LinkedIn, buy an investor pool? Why bother? Now, I mean, you can't out BlackRock. And I don't think BlackRock even has to worry about this. And I say BlackRock, other fund managers of extraordinary AUM are available that people buy because of their brand. They are available. So, but I will come to that in a minute. The real challenge is that inflows since the pandemic have been completely asymmetric. And if you are a fund manager and you are, not in the top 10, you are only, 80% of the money went to the top 10 fund managers. So in essence, the money that, small and medium managers who are pretty much on this call are going after is a really, really small amount. You're basically fighting for 20% or less of the pie. So that's one part. It's not good news. It's not good news if you're a small and medium sized manager. But what makes it even worse is the outflows, is that if, mid-size firms have experienced small outflows, but where firms are less than $1 billion, okay, and interestingly enough, that's probably about 30% of our 300 users in ProFundCom, have massive outflows. So it's asymmetrical. So redemptions and investments are asymmetrical, and they're highly weighted against the small and medium managers, small, medium-sized manager. And, I said earlier on, you can't out BlackRock. So how do you do it? It's all about, as a manager on this call, how do you go about becoming, that's actually probably not right. It's actually, how do you not become irrelevant? That's the worst thing in the world, is you're a fund manager and you're just irrelevant. How do you get past that? And, Charles, who's on this call, actually gave me this slide, and it pretty much defines everything that a fund manager should be thinking about, is that you've got to differentiate yourself, and you differentiate yourself through communicating, not just once, twice, just 3 times. And I think there's a song about that. I think that's Lionel Richie. And it's almost to say, you've got to kind of define what you do, stick to that. And, post-COVID, it's almost like the managers that are going to win are the ones that have got the best systems in place. And, whilst, managers we talk to who are small and medium-sized, under $1 billion, under $5 billion, they're kind of getting to this point where they've kind of realized, that sending out fact sheets is just not going to be enough. Sending out, quarterly, sending out a tweet once in a while, putting something on LinkedIn, it's not enough. There almost has to be a huge process that sits behind this. So what are the basics of marketing automation? So this is probably the first thing to cover. What does it actually mean? Now, I just thought I'll just strip it back. There are 3 types of automations that, a marketer can have if they're working in fund management. And we've got drip campaigns, which is one type of automation in marketing. You've got nurture programs, which are another type of automation. And you've got business automations. And business automations are the point where you get to where everything just works. So your fact sheets, your data, it comes in, it automatically generates your monthlies and distributes them through multiple channels, brings back the data into your CRM, and then delivers that to the sales team. And that is, actually very, very easy to do if you've got the structures and the motivation to do it. And that's what I'm going to take you through. So first of all, what's a drip campaign? And that is kind of, 101. If there's anything you ever want to do for marketing automation, it's around a drip campaign. And what a drip campaign is, it's basically a sequence of outbound communication. So in this case, we're using emails. And you send out an email, you keep sending out emails, regularly spaced, and And the minute somebody engages with that, they stop receiving emails. That's what a drip campaign is. And where that's really quite useful is with people who are not engaging with you. So if you've got a case where you've got, a list in your CRM of people who are not investors, people who are not engaged with you, but you continually email, what is kind of worth doing is to kind of see, well, if these people aren't engaged with us, what can we do? What sequence of messaging can we put out that would get them engaged? Now, here's one we did where we called it a series of 4 called How to Harness Digital Marketing for Hedge Funds. And we send this out. And so when somebody leaves their email on our website, they receive this sequence of emails. And the minute they actually click on a link on this email, they actually stop receiving the email. And then, they fall into another process. So that's what drip campaigns are. And drip campaigns are really, really useful when you're in a position where you want to actually change your message or you change your offering or to a group of people who are not engaged with you. And drip campaigns actually get you 10 to 18% more engagement on a group that doesn't engage with you. And why that's useful, it's because everybody in your fund CRM, okay, are all people that cost you money to actually get into your CRM. Now, whether it's game, whether it's people that have come to events you've run, whether it's webinars you've hosted, ex-investors, consultants, whoever, getting these people engaged again actually it has an element of ROI kind of built into it. Okay, so that's really useful for drip campaigns. Its understanding is then when a trigger action happens, they click on the email, go to a link, do something like that, reply to it, the campaign stops. Okay, so that's drip campaigns. The second type of campaign is a little more funkier. Now, this is a nurture campaign. And what a nurture campaign does, it gives you the ability to use multiple channels. And this chart that's running on the left-hand side is effectively the channels that we've been tracking over 2020, which ones are popular and which ones aren't. And what you do in this case is that the whole program runs start to finish. So whether somebody engages with the email, engages with the investor portal, engages with your LinkedIn post, it's irrelevant. Over a period of time, the sequence of messages continually, the recipient continually receives them, irrespective of whether they've done anything to trigger, whether they're triggered on any channel. And why that is useful, because it's one of those things, is that the investor journey is effectively non-linear now. People are coming in via your website, they're coming in via email, they're coming in via, thought leadership posts you're putting out there, a whole raft. And it's almost impossible to kind of program that out individually. And that's why nurture campaigns are so useful. It gives you the ability to have one content and then distribute it across multiple channels. Now, why nurture programs are, not really implemented by a huge amount of people we talk to, it's because it needs a huge amount of discipline. So you've effectively got to schedule all your tasks in the month and make sure they're actually being done. Now, here's an example of our nurture program that we run at ProFundCom. Now, I'm not going to give you our clients' ones, obviously, but this is an example of what we do. We have every week, every month, we have a whole sequence of events that we run, a whole set of posts that we put into ProFundCom, and the system just goes ahead and delivers that. And that to us is kind of the second level of automation, which is, drip campaigns are fine. So come to our website, leave your information, not a problem. We'll kind of send you stuff till we really know you've got a second level of engagement. And, and then you fall into, interestingly enough, our nurture program. And in our nurture program, we kind of add more and more about our brand, what we believe in. And the same applies to a fund. Funds that are using the nurture program successfully do 3 things incredibly well. The first thing they do is the first thing they do is they communicate their investment strategy. The second thing they do is they communicate their attitude to risk. And the third thing they do is they communicate their performance in that order. And there we go back to what I said earlier on, communicate, communicate, communicate. And that is really, the kind of essence of, a question we get asked a lot is that, well, we're a fund, we don't have much to talk about. Well, actually, you do. You've got those three things. And, frequency is another question. How frequently do you add people to your nurture program? How frequently do you send information to them? The question there is that if you decide it's going to be an interval, then stick to that interval, because nothing an investor hates more than uncertainty. So if they know they get information from you on, say, the 17th of the month, well, let's try and make sure it is the 17th of the month, whether it's a Saturday or a Sunday. Very, very important metric that nobody really talks about. Because if the 17th is a Sunday, you can't think, nah, you know what, I'll do it on Monday, because that's what we're conditioned to. And it's the logical thing to do. But the imaginative thing to do is actually send it on the 17th, because it's that underlying trust that even though somebody may not be an investor with you, they're a prospect, you're building that digital trust in how you're engaging with them. Okay, so we've covered drip campaigns, we've covered nurture programs. Now you can kind of go into the real funky elements where you've got the ability to have complete business automations. And in the questionnaire that I sent out to attendees before the webinar, a lot of people were talking about business automations is where I can have the ability to generate and distribute my fact sheets automatically. And I'll come to that in a minute, but the answer is that's what business automation is all about. And we have customers who have kind of been on this journey with us, and other suppliers are available too, and have kind of built this into what the marketing team and the distribution team have been doing. So this is a massive process that has been automated. Now, the question then becomes, how much do you trust automation? And I'll come to that at the end of my now 17 minutes, okay? So that's business automations. Things not to do. Do not design from a tool like what I'm showing you here. This is our own automation designer. Do not use this to design it on day one. It's effectively designing from the keyboard. It will not work. And the reason it won't work is because, it's a whole element of, it's almost a programming engineering exercise. It's not really a marketing exercise. If you're a marketer and you kind of got, some experience in system theory and system programming, yes, I would advise you to build automations. But automations is one of those things where you need a whole bunch of stakeholders involved. And even then, you'll probably get it wrong. A bit like, this. It's like, what did the business need? What did the business say they need? What they actually needed? And everybody in between. And, and so we've always kind of spoken to our customers about stay away from the automation tools that are available. They look really easy to use, but they really are, under the surface, there's huge amounts of thinking and that kind of needs to go into what kind of outcomes the business required. Otherwise, you'll go back to that cartoon from Marcoon, the cartoonist earlier on, which is basically you'll just have something that's not fit for purpose. And the trouble is when marketing ends up building things that are not fit for purpose, you've got to go back for budget. And if you go back for budget and things are not fit for purpose, and you, as a marketer, you're dealing with an economist, as in your CFO or your whoever holds your budgets, they're just going to look and say, you didn't do, this didn't work. And again, that's another big reason why marketing teams fight for budget, because they very rarely deliver projects that actually add to business ROI. But do not fear, we're going to get there. Okay, so just coming quickly onto generating dynamic content, there are, again, two parts to generating dynamic content on business automations. One is where you can take data from things like FundInfo, Morningstar, Broadridge, do some programming, connect it to an API, and automatically build these distributions. That's absolutely fine to do. And clients of ours who use this technique, I have to say, have really scaled their operation, because subconsciously the marketing team is actually doing what they're fantastic at, which is marketing funds, then actually spending time in Excel, in a data room, pushing stuff out, things that are really just not playing to their skills. The other thing that, again, I've added this section mainly because of questions we got asked in the questionnaire we released, is how do you create templates that automatically generate when data becomes available? And that too is covered in business automations. And dynamic content can be created by what we call conditional blocks. So if a fund document becomes available, if a commentary becomes available, if all that kind of static data becomes available, we can then push it into email templates, web articles, and the like. Again, you have to trust the automation to do this, and you've got to trust your processes that sit behind this. And does it happen like magic? It can do, but again, it requires a lot of systematic due diligence on what you're doing. And at the same time, it's always, we've always recommended is that if, at least for the first 6 to 8 weeks, that all these processes should be eyeballed. And, it's that philosophy of, measure twice, cut once. And automations take that away from you. So, it is a balance on, how much do you automate? Yes, the logical mind would say, we'll automate everything, we'll reduce costs, and that will be fantastic. That's the logical mind. So, and that's what you kind of got to fight against, is to say, well, what's our appetite for, reputational risk if we're sending out the wrong stuff and sending out the wrong stuff in bulk. And, we've failed at that. We've made huge mistakes with clients of ours where, we got the automation wrong because we were so confident in it. And as I'll actually come to this later, and that's why planes crash. That's why the 737 MAX had its problems. It's because they had automation that failed. So, and I'll be covering that too, what makes automations fail. Okay, how do you target opportunities? This is the good stuff, right? So when you're building an automation and whatever product you use, cross-selling is probably the most powerful automation you have. And this automation, what it does, it gives you the ability to look at all the marketing activities you're doing, identify who those investors are, what their holdings are, so you kind of connect into your holdings database or your account system and actually see if they're an investor, okay, in a fund, great, no need to talk to them about it. But if they're a non-investor in a fund, but they're in what you're sending out, then you've actually got a call to action in that automation. And that is incredibly useful. So, selling to an existing investor is probably, and if you've got multiple funds, is probably the easiest thing to do, I'd like to think. And the data does support that. So what this automation, as simple as it is, complex to implement, is one of those automations that really, really relies on your CRM having all the data in the right place and correctly updated. So hopefully I'm kind of showing you now how CRM and marketing and automation all tie in. And it is having that data clean. And in this automation, identifying holdings, who's an investor in what fund, and then triggering an action. Very, very useful, this automation. And if I was to say clients of ours who, multi-fund houses, this automation gets run every 7 days and information is delivered into the CRM. Very powerful automation. And, you can build this in Excel. If you know pivot tables, you can build this in Excel if you want to. The other reports is what we call Marketing Alpha, this automation. And what this automation does, it actually gives you the ability to see who are your new engagers over a period of time. So for example, if you want to know who are the people that have not engaged with your events, fact sheets, website, portal, social, email, over say the last 6 months, but in the last month have suddenly accessed some information, and you can start to say, well, I don't care if it's one thing, I want to know if they've accessed 3 things. Well, you can build that in as well. Then give my sales team, give my relationship managers a call to action. And that is what this automation does. And we call it Marketing Alpha because it's that small thing that somebody's done that could add, a big change into the business, as in, money coming in. And you can flip this round as well. You could also say, who are the people who are actively engaged with us that have stopped showing an interest? And if they're investors, you want a call to action as well. Okay. This one here is to kind of work out, how, when someone's engaging with your automation, are they an existing contact or are they a new contact? Feeding that into the CRM and then building out, right, where do I channel this action? If they're an existing investor, send them to a relationship manager. If there's somebody new and they fulfill a criteria, that criteria, could be something that, you've built in. So let's say they've visited 5 web pages, they've downloaded a couple of fact sheets, they've, attended a webinar, then, put them onto somebody in new biz dev, in business development. So already, the marketing team has all of a sudden aligned itself operationally, maybe not objectively, but operationally to the sales team. So, and it is that thing where, marketing is becoming, more and more part of the sales process. And that's what marketing automation should be driving. If you don't have buy-in from, the C-level, this will fail. And that's why, webinars like this are really important, just to kind of bridge that gap between, what sales is doing, what marketing is doing, and how the C-suite can see them as one. Okay, this is my favorite automation, because all 53 of you who have been on, or are on this call right now, still 53, yeah, still 53, this is the automation you went through. And this automation is basically when we send out, and this is what a lot of our managers do, when they send out a monthly call, quarterly call, they look at the email, they look at the LinkedIn invites and say, who are the people that opened this and who are the people that didn't open it? And how many people opened the email and clicked on the link but didn't do anything? Okay, and who were the ones that clicked on the link and did not register? Okay, so we've got to be, and there's a bit more to this, but fundamentally what we're doing is we've kind of tracked your behavior across, whether you've registered, what part of the registration process did you get to, and then remailed you 2 or 3 times based on your activity with an ever so slightly different message. And just to give you the numbers, when we ran the first invite, we had 50 people sign up. When we ran the second invite, we had another 70 people sign up. And then when we ran the final one, we had another 30 people. So effectively, we've, pretty much added 300% return on, on a webinar that potentially had 50 people signed up for it to something that's, a much, much bigger number. And I really like this, this is Victoria who's on this call. She's the one who kind of gave us this, this automation, absolutely fabulous automation. I mean, our product does this. I'm not saying other products do this. We definitely do this, and people find it. If you're running an event, the last thing you want to do is have spreadsheet on spreadsheet on spreadsheet. And this could be a webinar, it could be a physical event. It's just getting lost in a sea of spreadsheets. And if you were to actually see a marketing team that really does badly, it's not because they've got bad marketeers, it's because their processes just generate copious amounts of spreadsheets. And the minute you put something in 2 spreadsheets, you've doubled your chance for an error. Okay, so that's for events. So coming towards the end of the presentation, what do we do with all this information? What do we do, and how does ProFuncom do it? So yeah, fundamentally, I've kind of spoken about 4 things. I've spoken about cross-selling opportunities, where's the redemption risks of what investors are going to move, potentially leave, marketing alpha, marketing alpha being, what are the things, who are the people that have suddenly become interested, and low-hanging fruit. And this, I haven't covered this, but it's there because it's one of those things that, automation can do to say, who are the people that are actively engaged with through multiple channels, but nobody has spoken to yet, okay? And, the way you do this is just identify who these people are and then push it into your CRM. So ultimately, it's a case where, we've taken multiple data points and have actually distilled it down to 4 calls to action for somebody in the sales team or the IR team within their CRM. Now, if you're about to drop off now, hold on for a few more minutes. What I've just shown you here is how we've very, very quickly, with marketing automation, joined the dots between 4 or 5 systems. So your holdings, your CRM, your marketing, your distribution systems, bringing them all together into one place to deliver calls to action for your sales team that do 2 things: raise AUM, preserve AUM, the 2 things that a manager really cares about. And, with the investor journey digital, you can drill down into an individual contact and see what they've done. So what's the impact of automation? The impact of automation is there are loads and loads of data points we're collecting: thought leadership, website, events, social, press, outbound, inbound marketing. It's very much now post-COVID, a world where, there are multiple data points. The investor has changed, right? And, many people who've been on these webinars before have seen this slide. And the 2 things, and interesting enough, the topic of my book, which is coming out soon, is called The Faceless Investor. The investor is faceless and their journey has become non-linear. So with all these data points, what is a marketer having to do? Well, the marketers now are effectively sitting in a cockpit with all these twiddly things they need to do to ensure a successful marketing campaign. Now, if you don't trust automation and you're flying a plane, we trust our lives with automation when we fly a plane, and that's the autopilot. The autopilot is the automation of all the multivariables that are flying the plane into one place, so the pilots can actually do their jobs of maintaining and monitoring all the systems. Pilots in a modern aircraft do not fly. And I know that because in lockdown, I learned to fly on a simulator. And what they're doing is they're monitoring. So the marketing analogy, the marketing team just lets things roll. Let the processes run, let the distribution occur, while the marketing team is monitoring the flights of the campaigns. So what can we tweak? What can we make better? What incremental changes can we be doing? And that is why automation is so important in any kind of, multi-process, multi-variable, which is what marketing is, multi-channel operation. So again, what this is doing is giving people calls to action. So just before I go, if you want any more resources, please visit our website. We've got 65 articles on marketing automation. I'm here if you want to ask me some questions. I believe there is a question. Do you integrate with HubSpot? The answer is we have an API, and we do. If there's got any more questions, that would be great. I'm here. And what we are doing, there will be a replay of the webinar as well. And we have an offer, which we do at the end of webinars, is where I give people a 3 hours digital marketing audit and consultation. That's me. That's my colleague, Victoria. It looks like I'm ignoring her, which I'm not, but I try not to. So if there are any questions, please let's have them. Okay, here we've got a question come in. Okay, that's the same question. Do we integrate with HubSpot? Okay, that's one question that's come in. Any more? Oh, hi, Ian. Good to hear from you. Okay, we've got a question from Tave. Hello, Tave. Here we go. Oh, Robert as well. Here we go. So Tave is asking, how do you balance this over sending an email overload? Email fatigue. It's all about email fatigue, but also from frequency, which you're talking about, it's got to be interesting. It's got to be interesting. It's got to be value. You know, most people who come on these webinars, it's value. People get value from communication, and that's what your brand, what your fund has to be able to talk about. Email fatigue, you will know, especially if you use our platform, because what we can do, we actually trend, where we trend 4 things. Are your emails and message convincing? Are people getting tired? Are people engaging with it? And you can actually trend those over time and tweak your frequency of what you're sending out. The sweet spot is 6 weeks. If you're sending out, obviously you've got to send out your NAVs and all that kind of stuff on a regular basis, but 6 weeks is the sweet spot, because it's one of those things you can just about, 4 weeks it won't do it. 6 weeks is that it's almost just right. You know, it's Goldilocks, not too hot, not too cold, just about right. And we've found that 6 to 7 weeks, sending out thought leadership pieces, sending out webinar invites is pretty much it. It's also handy to use different branding when you're kind of doing marketing automation as well. I recently did some analytics, and it's text is the one that does the best. The closer it looks to Outlook, your automations, the better. So yeah, so Tave, hopefully that's helpful. And ultimately, look, you know, instinctively you'll know just by you know, your responses, the traffic you're receiving, you know, you'll know. And again, this is one of those balances between logic and being imaginative and being intuitive. You know, it's kind of joining those together. We know what works for us. We know what works for our clients, but that is, you know, 12 months of data that kind of we've been analyzing to do. And, you know, marketing is a data exercise as well. Okay, question from Sophie. Hello, Sophie. How easily does this work today? It's all there. It's all there. It depends on how well structured your CRM is. So people receive the right fund information. You know, is the document, you know, when are the documents actually going to be ready and signed off? If you've got those kind of processes in place, that automation and distribution, you know, is available in our product, and others are available too. I hasten to add. You know, the real challenge with building business automations is, you know, finding out the weakest point in the chain, because what we've found is that, you know, wherever the weakest point is, invariably it's going to break. So building automations and robust automations so you don't end up getting it wrong is more of a process thing than a kind of marketing thing. And then you're kind of moving out of marketing into being a kind of a business analyst / developer, dare I say. But, you know, that heavy lifting, you know, we can do, your team can do as well. Okay, Andrew, well done. Thank you for your help as well. You know, that's one person who said well done. So thank you, Andrew. If you ever buy our product, that's 25% off for you. Okay, great. Well, everybody, thank you. Oh, I've got a few more chats. No, I'm not going yet. Here we go. Molly, hello, Molly. How do you recommend marketing teams best handle data hygiene in their CRM for existing contacts? Well, there is the, I think there's a line in The Simpsons, you know, there's the right way and the max power way. And the max power way is, and I've seen this work, is that if you want to do some really good hygiene, is to effectively email your complete list, look at the bounces and decide from there, right, these are people who, you know, we're going to take off the list. If people haven't engaged for a period of time, you know, you've got to take them off the list. Hygiene as well is, you know, knowing when people have left companies and actually taking them off the list. And I've mentioned taking them off the list. No marketer has ever said, I want to take somebody off the list. And that's why CRMs end up in the kludge they do. What I have seen work well is people actually create a brand new instance of their CRM and effectively populated with investors And as people come in through their various marketing outreach get populated that way. In ProFuncom, we actually have the same process. So people that are on our marketing automation side are running in a different system. They're running in our system. And when they qualify, that means they've attended a webinar, they have, downloaded a white paper, they then move into our clean CRM. So we keep two. So we actually have I think, it's kind of called a demilitarized zone where, anything after that is just chaos, but then we then put order into that chaos and bring that into our CRM. And why that's really important, and Molly, that's a great question. Why that's really important is because there's so many data points, there will be a lot of noise. And if you bring noise into a structured system like your CRM, you're going to add noise to a system that's not meant to have noise. So that's why you almost need to have two systems / processes, automations in there. And even cleansing of that data is an automation process that we run as well, and in our clients do as well. Okay, do phone calls have a role to play? This is from Tarek. You have to smile and you have to dial. There is no way out of this, okay? If anybody thinks that you're going to raise assets because people are scoring in on your marketing automation, you, my friend, you have to smile and dial. There is no way. I mean, nobody, yes, we've got customers of ours who are running apps where, one of them, is fascinating. You can effectively, make an investment in a fund on your app. Yes, but it's not part of that due diligence process. It's not part of the onboarding. When you talk about big sums of money, you're going to have to make those calls. There's kind of no way out of that. Some of our customers, as soon as people show an interest, they will get a phone call. That works. That's somebody's cultures. Others don't. They kind of build a profile of all their digital engagements and then decide, right, today's the day we're going to do that. And they do that because our system within the CRM will say, today's the day to call this person. All right, Tarek. So no bad luck, my friend. You've got to smile and dial. For a cleanup exercise, should you not run your full database through Kickbox? Yeah, you see, the issue with Kickbox is that Kickbox and all these email cleansing tools, as soon as what it relies on mail servers actually saying whether this email exists. And this is exactly the same technique that spammers use. So they don't deliver an email, they just query on the mail server. And, it's a bit like, my favorite child who I don't talk about. You don't talk about it. And it's one thing we don't talk about in kind of in the email cleansing world. The only way to cleanse an email is to actually send a message to that email. And you've got to do it in a way that's throttled. So you're not sending out your whole list, but, you do it in batches. And, I'm kind of going on about what we do, but you can basically build batches to say, right, hit this, 400 people, we're going to send an email to work out what the bounces are. So email validation, there's no way around it, Ian, other than physically sending that email. Okay. So Tim, we've got a question from Tim. How critical is that a campaign to engage prospective investors come from your own email address? It has to come from your email address. It has to look purely from delivery that it's come from your exchange to their exchange. So not an intermediary mail server, because that is how the world, spam is a very, very, spam filters are incredibly clever. And, and the very fact that most products out there, in fact, the BBC had an article yesterday saying most email providers use little pixels in the images in their emails to deliver their kind of bulk emails. And as a result, those emails, they break privacy laws, and, B, what they do is that you don't have any images. Our product's different. Our product delivers emails Outlook to Outlook, image to image, and there's a whole science that sits behind email delivery. But how critical it is, Tim, it's just like, you cannot have something saying, you know, Tim at blah, blah supplier dot blah, blah supplier at blah, blah. You know, it just doesn't work, you know, because, you know, ultimately when you send an email, a one-to-one email, the last thing you want to know is that you know, you are part of a broad brush. Now, yes, that is how most email campaigns work, but the ability to actually know that it's coming from you, it's obvious it comes from you, a mail server knows it comes from you, and the reply goes back to you, that is what you want. You want that ability. And if you're doing bulk emails where you've got multiple salespeople, you want emails to be sent from people, from individuals from within, you know, your sales team. So instead of doing 5 individual campaigns, you can do 1, and it automatically slots in the reply to. So how critical is it, Tim? Very critical. And in answer to Tarek's question, hopefully it follows up with a smile and dial. Okay, no, my pleasure, Tim, absolutely. Well, I'm just kind of saying we're kind of coming to 45 minutes, guys. So thank you very much for taking the time to join us. Molly's got a question. Sending a marketing automation which requires an unsubscribe to mean GDPR compliance, doesn't that convey an inauthentic email blast that could potentially turn off an investor? It's a really, really good question, Molly, and there's a fantastic workaround. And the fantastic workaround is replace the word unsubscribe, right, with the words click here to opt out of our communications. And if you see the email we send out, that's what we put in. It's absolutely fine. Absolutely no problem with that. And it's just a very small thing that makes a huge difference. So yes, that helps. Oh yeah, my pleasure, Molly. I'm full of great tips, you know. Somebody asked me another one. And this is a paid for Zoom, so it will go for more than 45 minutes. Okay, well, I think we're here. I think we're done. So once again, thank you everybody for joining. The consultation is available. It will be available on the replay as well. And, you know, I hope everybody found this useful. I've certainly enjoyed it. And remember, when you're flying in a plane again, when we go back to flying, think of the autopilot and think, you know, that could be your marketing automation. Thank you all very much.